On this AVNation special, we chat with three AV professionals who had a difficult time in 2020, but are already coming around in 2021, helping the House of Worship market out of Oklahoma City. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, a fresh start in Oklahoma City. It's Tim Albright with AVNation, with an AVNation special, taking a look at kind of a rebirth of an Oklahoma City AV integration team. With me today, first and foremost, is Robert Scott. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here, Tim.
Also, not to be confused, the Scott Lopez. How are you, sir?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks, Tim.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Zane Hedger. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. So let's take a look here. You guys have been involved in the House of Worship market for a long time. You worked for a company called Fowler AV, as well as under AV Design Solutions. So Robert, I want to start with you on this. Take us through kind of 2020 and not to be, make light of anything. 2020 was a pretty rough year for folks. And, you guys, obviously, felt some of that as well. Kind of take me through kind of what happened with you guys in Fowler at the end of 2020.
Yeah. So 2020 started off very well, actually. And the job list, the hot list was pretty long and pretty prominent. And we were actually out on a project on the third week of March. Scott, Dwayne, the installers, everybody was down on a project in Florida, and the panic of COVID hit, and they were actually worried about whether or not they were even going to be able to get home at that point, third week of March. At that point, all of our projects kind of pumped the brakes. The House of Worship market is very conservative in the way it operates. And so we literally went from the third week of March to the first week of December without any sizable integration projects. We spent that time extremely busy doing a lot of streaming projects, PTZ cameras, encoders, so that our church partners could get online. However, those are extremely low margin projects, and you got to do a whole lot of them. And we didn't have the bandwidth to do that much, not to mention there were no products available. So we had box sales that we did in March that we didn't actually get product to the end users until June.
Oh, wow.
And so just because manufacturers ran out of everything. Very nice integration project to kick off December. However, 10 months and not near enough revenue to offset expenses. Owner of the company came into my office on the 28th of December and says, "Hey, I'm not willing to invest anymore, and we're going to shut down the company effective immediately."
Oh, wow. Scott, I want to kind of, before we finish this conversation or finish the rest of the story, talk for a second about that transition in the House of Worship market. A number of folks, AV end users that are, they work, in the industry. A lot of them volunteer at houses of worship throughout the country, throughout the world. But talk about that transition that happened in March and April, where churches and synagogues were suddenly told you can't have people in your sanctuary, which is what they do on a weekly basis, and how you guys were able to help them transition into more of an online, more of a virtual world.
I don't know. Did you mean me or Robert?
Yes, Scott. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the transition was, it was very natural, and we were already doing a lot of the streaming things, and but it was in its, I don't want to say infancy, but it was a very much an add-on to what we were already doing. We saw a full transition really fast, or as fast as we could make it, because, like Robert mentioned, the product availability just wasn't there, but we were equipped as far as the knowledge and the experience on how to do that. So we made a really quick transition in the way we were doing business with our customers. And like Robert said, there just wasn't enough of it. We weren't on site anymore. My primary job with Fowler and AV Design was that customer integration side. So I had a hybrid role as project manager. Along with the project manager, we brought on Dwayne Herndon, and also running technical services in general. So everything that involved. So what I saw personally was a shift from heavy customer interaction to design, and lots of that work, and just trying to stay ahead of how quick that trend changed, from getting out and doing the nuts and bolts of a job to sending equipment out to customers, and then trying to assist them in getting that up and running. So that was the real change right there.
All right. Zane, we're going to get to you here in a second. Robert, take me back through, and we're at the end of December, 1st of January. Owner has shut it down. Obviously, you guys then are out of work. You've been doing AV for a minute or two. It's been, Fowler, I want to say was around for about 30 or 40 years. Talk about, kind of how Conference Technologies came in then, and started working with you guys. And in essence, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this, Conference Technologies did not purchase Fowler at all. Fowler, the owner of the Fowler, shut it down, but they did ramp up and basically start another branch for themselves using a lot of you guys. So talk about that for a second.
So yeah, Tim, our core group of Scott, Zane, and I have actually been together for 20 years now. We all started at Fowler within a month of each other, back in 2000. The first thing for me, being the elder statesman of the group, was to lick my wounds a little bit that first week. Scott actually reached out almost immediately and says, "Okay, what's the next step here?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to talk about anything until after the holidays over." And so we actually got together on January the 4th and had a conversation about, hey, let's just start our own company. Scott kind of had a side hustle he was working with, so he had a federal ID number already set up, and a little company that he was working on. And so we immediately jumped in and started calling Fowler customers that we actually had contracts on, for projects that needed to move forward, to get their buy-in and make sure that they were willing to proceed with us. I reached out to Zane. He didn't know what direction he wanted to go yet, but we had a conversation about, hey, if you want to reach out to your people, or if your people reach out to you, and you bring in business to the table, we can do that and get you some compensation as we land these projects. That quickly turned to us figuring out that setting up dealerships as a co-owner partnership company was going to be extremely difficult, just to be able to get product. Yeah. In the interim, our Panasonic representative, Gary Berkemeyer, who is based out of St. Louis, reached out to me, and he says, "Hey, have you ever heard of a company called CTI?" And I said, "Not even once." He goes, "Conference Technologies, they're huge." And I said, "Well, we in our market have never run into them, so no, I haven't heard of them." He goes, "Well, they have a regional VP that not only is a customer, but he's a friend of mine, George Sherman, who's based in Wichita. Yep. And here's his phone number, and I'm going to tell him that you're going to contact him. And I said, well, Gary, I think we're kind of wanting to do our own thing here. And he said, well, I'm still going to tell him you're going to reach out. And so I had a quick, maybe 10-minute conversation with George on the phone. And within like 15 minutes, I started getting text messages from John Laughlin. And we set up a weekend conversation. John was actually traveling the end of that week. And I was sitting on the roof of my house taking down Christmas lights when John called me. And we had a nice conversation that afternoon, and kind of told him what our plans were and the direction we were wanting to go. And he reiterated the fact that he felt it was pretty tough to get started from scratch, especially in a cash business in today's climate. And that, he would really be interested, wanted to know a lot about our team and what all we brought to the table as far as how many salespeople, do you have engineering? Do you have install techs? Do you have a project manager? So we had a nice conversation, and I told him, I said, well, Scott and I are actually working on a job together this next week. And we're going to be 20 feet in the air on a scaffold for several days. We'll have some conversations. We had kind of bounced around some ideas, and I told John we'd connect on that following Thursday. Scott and I both were feeling the same frustration because we were in a divide and conquer mode as far as you sign up for this and I'll sign up for that, and we'll try and get this thing rolling so that we can purchase product. And we agreed that this was probably going to be the best thing for all of us, not just individually, but corporately, and our whole team. Reached out to Zane, made sure he was on board. We scheduled a Teams call with John Laughlin on the 15th, Friday the 15th of January, and I would say within about 45 minutes, John said, hey, let's bring the whole team on board. So that's kind of how the whole process went down. And, CTI enabled us to literally keep our group intact. And they were very interested in the fact that the house of worship is what our company was built on and what we knew. Because CTI, the reason we hadn't run into them is they really don't do much in the house of worship market. So that's kind of how everything went down. And I guess 10 days later, we were in orientation. So.
All right. Zane, real quickly, kind of talk for a second about what that means, not just to your team. Obviously, keeping together a team is important, especially during some of these difficult times of a company shutting down and coming to a new one, but also to your customers, right? I mean, you guys have been together for 20 years. Certainly, you've got relationships that last probably even longer than that. What does this mean to the customers you guys are trying to serve and to those users?
Well, they're pretty thrilled. Early on, I've been reaching out to some of these customers I've had for years and years and years that are literal friends at this point.
Yeah.
And they're thrilled. I get responses of, I'm so happy to hear this. Said we didn't have a clue where to go, who to deal with. We were pretty unique in what we did with the house of worship for so long. And they've just developed an element of trust with myself and Robert on the front line, but all of our team coming in behind us. We've just established that relationship that they don't want to lose. With the house of worship market, they can't afford to get ripped off, and they don't want to look stupid and trying to pull things off for media. And that's where we came in, and they're real comfortable having that still around.
All right, very good. Well, gentlemen, seriously, congratulations on still being able to service your customers and your clients and keeping the band together, as it were. Thank you so much, Robert. I'll let you kind of say the last word on this. How do people connect with you if they're looking either for somebody in OKC, Oklahoma City, or as you guys mentioned, the House of Worship is kind of the area you focus on. How do people connect with you guys?
Well, they can reach out to us through conferencetechnologies.com or conferencetech.com.
Very good. Yeah, we'll put a link to that and your guys' email on this episode's page. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Robert Scott, Mr. Scott Lopez, and Zane Hedger, the new OKC, Oklahoma City branch of Conference Technologies. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.